Well, hi. So I'll again speak on this. I think there was certain issue with the streaming, so excuse us for that. And I continue with today's discussion, which largely entails a talk on changing consumers, changing mindset. So I'll start with the quote from the Bernard Shaw, wherein he says, "Progress is impossible without change, and those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything." And we've been reading and we experience this that change is inevitable and without change nothing is possible. The evolution of human being is mandated on a critical parameter of change. To some, change is positive, change is also negative, but largely, if taken in the constructive domain, change offers a lot of positivity. Well, witnessing changing mindsets in the modern times, it is the need of the hour. As we all know, the young generation, the youngsters are capable of lot many things. It is only that they, along with our suggestions, have to put their energies into the right constructive domain. Well, herein, I'm not talking about the innovations, rather I'm talking about the very plain, simple, basic traits of humanness, wherein we show some ethics, we show some attachment to the climate, to the resources that are so being endowed to us by nature, which in a way are free of cost, because the price for the water that we pay is minuscule. The climate, the air, the green effect, whatever is being endowed is free of cost to us. And what have we done as humans? Rather, we have caused such a damage that now what we read and see is dwindling natural resources. Well, these are just a few examples, and what we have in all these years as generations added on to the environment is toxics. And in fact, there's an interesting study that Walmart executed with people like you and me, the consumers, and consumers were vociferous to the extent that they said the destruction of non-renewable resources, global warming, industrial toxins that are polluting water, our soil, in fact, the entire ecosystem is due to us. Well, it is a good realization, because till the time we are in the denial mode, we are not going to put in the constructive efforts. And it's not the efforts of few environmentalists that is going to be changing things, but it is you, me, everybody of us around that has to contribute. However, having said that, what we do not really see is the connection that ordinarily exists between what we buy and the actual ecological damage done along the way during the life cycle when these products are being created. All of us own a pair of jeans, we wear leather shoes, and there are a lot of items that we consume on a daily basis that are actually polluting the rivers, the oceans in turn, and intoxicating the soil on which the fruits and vegetables grow. No rocket science to figure this out. But do any one of us, or have any one of us really contributed towards eradicating or applying a socially, economically sound mindset stating that I am going to, from today, start using such resources to the minuscule level or minimum possible levels? Possibly very few people have taken that decision and move ahead. I'm not trying to portray a very dark picture to you stating everything is gone. No, there is some light, and it's in the right time that we see the light, and the light is in the form of the new gen. The new generation, our kids, whom we also term as the population, the Zen population, right? So with an ever-growing consciousness, so one is we all have to be conscious on our part as to what are we doing. So we all are consumers, and henceforth we all have to be conscious and consciously evolving with environmentally conscious mindsets. Why? Because then only we would be able to address the issues that are plaguing all of us today, and it is our own making. So there is nobody from X planet that has come and thrown all these issues on us. It is you and me who are the contributors, and it's possibly you and me with our young generation that has to take the onus of solving this. So we often have started hearing a term called conscious lifestyle and conscious living. What is this conscious all about? Well, it may sound a new phrase to you, featuring in almost any sustainability related narrative that goes today by any corporate or say the environmentalist. But rather than a jargon, we should all take some leaf out of it that conscious is a state of mind. And if you and I start living conscious lifestyles and a conscious living, we are bound to change this globe, this earth, this ecosystem very positively. Hence, today's conscious consumers, who are they? A conscious consumer is an agent of change who considers A, the social change, B, the environmental change, C, the ecological change, D, the political change. And if all these changes are manifested in a particular way that each one of us is motivated to act, I think it is going to do a tremendous good to the humanity. And one state and one country then takes a leaf from the other and moves ahead. And that's going to be the evolution and the change structure. Well, today's conscious consumer feel personally responsible to address issues. I and you would have often seen our kids talking a lot that we have learned these particular traits in school. The youth of our times talk about and very consciously read on products as to where is my product being made, how it is being made, what is being harmed in terms of atmosphere. I remember reading a few years back on PepsiCo water bottles that we give more water than we consume. Actually, it has a very positive impact on my psychology, my behavior, and my attitude and aptitude towards a product or an offering. And if it does to me, I believe it does to most of us as well, because we are human beings resonating certain values. Well, so then who's this socially conscious consumer? I'm not saying that anybody who's above age 40 is not and cannot be a socially conscious consumer, but we find this echoing more in the younger audience under the age of 40, I think, which is a promising sign, because they are going to be the future generations. They are going to be the one who will be impacted by our actions which we've already taken, versus their own actions that's going to impact them versus the future generations. They think green. Well, they think companies should support the environment, and we see that companies are playing a major role in addressing the environmental issues, be it cutting down on carbon footprints, doing away with plastic usage, etc., etc. Having said that, this is just a small beginning and a lot needs to be done in conjunction. When I say in conjunction, it is the companies who have to take care, it is the individuals who have to play their role, it is the social society, it is the politicians, rather everybody has to play a role. So is consciousness an outcome of, well, I was figuring out, so I said what really contributes to this consciousness? Is it the fear that we will lose everything, our lives, our peace of mind, and we'll have all these sufferings wherein everybody is ill? Or is it a genuine concern for the future generations? Or is it the only choice left? Well, I would say to some extent it is a combination of each with varying degrees. So going green is the buzzword. So I would say rather than a buzzword, going green should be a culture. We should practice recycling of items. We should really adapt the eco-friendly ways to live, and organic to some extent has gained traction, but wherein organic is largely still understood as something which is not chemically led. To an extent true, but organic has a wider manifestation to me. Well, no other generation has ever been more environmentally aware than the youth of today, and there is a very obvious reason, because the social media has really made all of us aware the world is shrinking. So with shrinking of the world, one man's problem is another man's problem as well. It's not the syndrome like a problem and an opportunity, but it is a problem and a problem. So any human being facing problem, be it any virus that affects any particular country, but the entire globe gets concerned, which is the right thing to do. So we are conscious of preserving the natural resources, consume eco-friendly products, recycling, sharing economy, as we all know. So there are Olas, Ubers of the world, and there's a bicycling economy. In fact, there are a lot of groups that have started exchanging and putting commodities. In fact, OLX platform did some bit of helping there, if you were to just forget the economic benefits of such websites and such portals. And so the new generation has started believing in carpooling. It is good because that saves us space, saves a lot of carbon footprint, etc., etc. So there's no harm trying and adapting our lifestyle and our behavior. So today's consumers are willing to share personal information also if it gets them a better deal, no harm. So there is another manifestation slightly deviating. So most of us, we say, oh, we are socially aware, and we talk a lot about the abuse of our social media information that we put onto that. However, certain smart consumers can really derive a lot of benefits out of that, and if companies understand the customers better, I think they'll attune their offerings in sync to the consumer thought process. Well, as I said, I'm going to be talking more about the Generation Z. So that doesn't mean that you and I had done nothing. In fact, remember our own childhood. If I could take few cues, few leaves from my childhood, I well remember that we were often handed over certain stuff which was in fine condition from our siblings. So I mean, a brother using another elder brother's say a pullover, etc. was a norm, and I assume that larger audience who is listening to me would worship that they did the very same thing if they're not very young. But what happened is 50 years hence, when you and I, possibly I'm not 50 still, but I'm just referring to that time span, 50 years then and 50 years from then, if we analyze, we are back to square one. So back to square one with a different reason. Earlier, our fathers, our parents were of the mindset that we should not be wasting things, and a thing could be reutilized and reused. Possibly that was the India or the Indian culture, as somebody, I mean the Westerners used to feel that it's deviated and symbolic of India-like consumer mindset. Why? Because we were a nation of have-nots. But I think that have-nots had its underlying advantages as well, in the sense that we were protecting our environment. We had less cars, we had less carbon footprints, we were more organic by our natural sense, we had beautiful clean rivers, but all that has changed now, and hence there is a call for conservation, and the conservation is now the onus of youth along with us as the epitomized guidance offers to them. Well, so what is a conscious consumer, and how is a conscious consumer different? Not very different. Only a person with a rational mind who shows and believes in sustainability, craves for social responsibility for self and for the brands that the person consumes from, is cause related. So everything that is bought has a reason behind it. Believes and values the fair trade practices, practices organic culture, believes in reusing commodities, is ethical. And of course, this all leads to saving the planet, and saving the planet means saving our future lives. Well, so the smart guy does what and should do what? From buying more to buying better, of course, nothing difficult to figure out. Brands will need to go one step further and show their sustainability practices to the world, and then only the guys would say, yes, that I'm buying smart. One classic example I was reading is from the Dove. So internationally, Dove has started stating that how their product is being manufactured without harming the environment to a greater extent, without damaging much of trees and the ecosystem. And they figured out that the growth for the brand was 30% against the category growth of 5%. So it talks and hence communicates a lot to the brands that you have to be doing good, and then you have to be propagating good, inciting to consumers that you are doing good, because sustainable models, as we just saw and heard, possibly you heard from me, and I also read and referred a lot of sources, cited that sustainability and the brand ethos are going to be leading emotional quotients for individuals to be attracted to particular brands beyond those rational symbolic values that the brands deliver. So activism is geared towards conservation of the environment. Henceforth, brands should look to offer education with clean, safe and sustainable products, and it's going to be a win-win situation because the brands operate in the same eco structure that I and you live in. Sharing economy I just mentioned, so I'm just with an example that I was going through and it made some sense to me. I mean, someday when you were young, you may be more inclined into photography and henceforth would have bought a DSLR camera. Why keep it in your wardrobe any further where it is just a commodity of no use? Rather, you can exchange it, you can lend it to others for money, so it's a win-win situation again. There will be a lot of saving with respect to creating such futile products. I say futile, excuse me, the photo enthusiast. I do not mean to really hurt your sentiments, but here I'm just taking an example. A commodity which is expensive, which is there but may not find use after a certain point in time, can always be shared with others. Possibly that will give you more delight that your prized possession is being used alternatively, and hence it may give you a sense of achievement. So a new generation with unique experiences, which I'm just going to cite few experiences which show that how smaller things can really matter and should matter, and possibly find you imbibe in our daily cultures, we can be saviors of this world as well. So, I mean, an interesting anecdotes like a parent proudly telling the story of how her daughter came home from school and put a ban on water bottles in their home after learning what they do to the environment. See, a very basic small step. In fact, post reading this, I also made a change. In fact, my refrigerator now has 50% of glass bottles and 50% of plastic bottles. Very soon, I may do away with plastic bottles. No harm. Teens explaining how they cut pollution and gas consumption by riding their bikes and walking. Walking is always a good trait, and the new generation was giving up to walking. Possibly, I remember walking 6 kilometers to my school through Fro when I was a kid, and hence gradually we saw a shift. Why? Because of the snob value. But if the same things are returning and with a social message, I think that really plays well for all of us. Then, then there's an example that I'm quoting which really happened in Gurgaon, and in fact, post this, there are a lot of NGOs and social organizations who have jointly with the restaurant industry taken the cause forward, wherein the drinks or the beverages that you consume are not supplied with plastic straw. That's a great saving, and we all can do without these straws or find alternate means to them. Well, one of the journals report that most of the conscious consumers are also motivated by health and the concern for health. It is noted that if people have friends or relatives who are recently touched by, say, a disease like cancer, asthma, infertility or other problems, which is linked to the environment, then they are the first ones or early adopters to choose toxic-free products. I mean, why should you and we wait for such instances to happen to us or to our friends? Rather, we should be preemptive, taking measures wherein we start drinking, eating, wearing, touching and breathing all that is healthy. Well, there's an interesting case from India again, and that's I'm saying beyond individuals. So, Forest Department in Chota Udaipur just started an initiative. As we all know, the saplings are normally grown in plastic sheets. So it's a green initiative by a green organization which is very promising. So what they did was they used the coconut shells to cultivate and germinate the seeds, and so that they have a positive impact later on and no negative impact at all. So what they do is when these saplings are planted thereon, the coconut shell is just cut and left there to decay, and then it converts itself into a fertile soil. So there are the two benefits of it. One is getting rid of the plastic, and second is an ecological way to sustain the agriculture cultivation. Hence, you and I should take a resolve and not only leave it to the ocean and the mountain goers to come together on this to protect the one thing we need to survive, that is our environment. So let's take an oath that the first step in environmental protection that is to happen will happen by me. So let's take a resolve that the first step in environmental protection that you and I take will create more conscious consumers. And let's not just say, let's do it. All the best and be the happy